Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom with Dan Breslin.
Welcome to the REI Diamonds podcast, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom. If you're interested in real estate investing, you're in the right place. I'm Dan Breslin, and on the REI Diamond Interviews, I bring you the real estate investment community's highest performers. My guests include industry leaders such as real estate investors, developers, and other service providers who are playing the game at a high level. In short, the information you hear here will make you money. Today's guest is none other than the author of the Section 8 Bible, which has, if you have not heard of the Section 8 Bible and you plan on or are doing the Section 8 investment niche, you'll want to pick the book up when we're done here. So Mike McLean is the author of the Section 8 Bible, and he's put together a large portfolio and learned a ton about making the Section 8 portfolio more efficient. But without further ado, I won't give too much away. Welcome to the call, Mike.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So, everybody wants to know the story. How did Mike McLean get started in real estate?
I was working in construction and also managing apartment complexes. I ended up breaking a bone in my back. Got a workman's comp settlement for, I forget, 30-some thousand. Ended up buying a property, and from one property, it rolled on to over 300 properties.
Just like that, huh?
Just like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, back in the day, the banks were a lot easier than they are now. So what I was doing is I'd buy one property, probably buy it in Southwest Philadelphia. I'd buy it for 15 to 20,000. Probably put about 5,000 into it, maybe 6,000 into it. Go march it back to the bank, do a cash out refi on it, and yank 35,000 out of it. And from there, I'd either buy one or possibly two properties and do the same thing. That's how the numbers multiplied.
So what year was that you got started, just so for posterity's sake, people who understand the market?
1996, 96, 97.
So 96, yeah. I mean, the money wasn't crazy loose then, but the values hadn't gone kind of crazy wild like we've seen in the past couple of years. So, Mike, was it Section 8 from the very beginning? You knew that was what you wanted, or did you kind of like migrate?
Absolutely not. No, my first tenant, I knew nothing about Section 8. My first tenant, I ended up putting him in there. He was a retail cash-paying customer. I put him in there and never received a nickel's worth of rent off him after I got the security deposit. I was going nuts trying to get him out of there. Finally, I got him out, and as quick as I got in the real estate game, I wanted to get out. You know what I mean? There was a guy,
man.
Yeah, there's an old guy across the street that he was actually working on a property. I knew he was in the rental game, so I walked across the street and said, hey, you want to buy my property? That quick, And he said, yeah, I'll buy it. And so why are you selling it? I told him the deal, I don't want to ever get beat for rent again. And he said, you ever heard of the Section 8 program? I said, no, what is it? And he told me what it is, how to get involved in it. And from there on, I'll never rent another property without doing it Section 8.
This is cool. So I'll share a little bit of my history. So when I got into, actually long before I got into the business, my dad was buying properties probably around maybe a few years before, 97. So we're talking like 87, 88. He was getting them for $5,000. He was doing the work. I guess he never made the transition, but he kind of ran into the same stumbling block that you did. He had a cash pay that never paid again, and he wanted out, and he ended up just kind of like walking away from the business completely and letting the partner take over the property, who then got the tenant out and ended up doing the renovation and holding them long term. But this is probably a great experience, which I imagine a lot of our listeners who are just getting started or maybe have heard some horror stories. I mean, there it was, Mike. You kind of like lived the horror story. Heard about the Section 8 program.
I would have been in the same boat as your dad if the guy across the street wasn't working on the property. I had to threw the towel in early too, but thank God he was there and told me what to do and worked out.
How about that? So you started buying, following that same cookie cutter model. And what number of properties were you up to when you finally started to get some, the ideas for the book? And then we can shift gears and talk about what you've written about.
At the high point, we were over 300, from low to like 312 properties, all 2 and 3 bedroom single-family homes in Southwest Philadelphia.
All right. Let's talk about the Section 8 Bible a little bit. You had a certain philosophy in there and a couple of, powerful lessons you learned through experience. I mean, can you elaborate on some of that for us, Mike?
Sure. My philosophy would be, I learned right from the beginning. I guess after renting properties out, everyone that we got back when the tenant would move out, I had noticed the same thing would be broke. Let's say we would hang a 30-inch pre-hung hollow door in a bedroom. Well, after getting the property back 5 years later, that would either be kicked off the hinges sometimes or have a fist hole through it. So naturally, I stopped using those and started going with the solid door. Now, if they punch it or kick it, maybe they'll break their hand or their foot. You know what I mean? But at least my door wasn't getting broke. Stuff like, okay, let's say you have a garbage disposal. A lot of people would leave the garbage disposal in the house. So would I in the beginning. But they would always get clogged, and as soon as they get the garbage disposal would clog, they would call Section 8, say their sink's backed up, and then you got a 24-hour violation to get out there and unclog somebody's sink. So, we would go in and start eliminating the garbage disposals. Chandeliers were another, say ceiling fans and chandeliers. Ceiling fan, the minute it stops working, if you go over there and try and hang a little, $10 globe light from Home Depot, the tenant's going to yell, "Hey, I had a ceiling fan in here." Well, you don't give them that option. The minute you're getting the house ready for inspection, you put the globe light in before the tenant moves in. Now, now if the ceiling fan goes, you're not going to even have one in there now. You have a globe light. That's it. You don't give them the opportunity to ask you for anything. It's all about elimination. Anything that we thought could break and fail us on inspection, and you didn't need it to pass inspection, we'd eliminate it from the property. Almost getting like an economy car, with roll down windows, no air conditioning, But we were getting the same price for it. If I left all that stuff in the house, garbage disposal, washer and dryer hookups, stuff like that, I was getting $850 for the property. If I took it out, I was still getting $850 for the property. So why should I leave it and risk, failing the annual inspection? So
same prices, same prices in rent. I guess it's a higher. So basically, it starts with the rehab, Mike. You're talking about the process of elimination. I think that's key. If anyone's listening, you want to write down the word elimination, because that's basically what that philosophy is. We eliminated the dishwasher. We eliminated the ceiling fan. We eliminated a lot of these things that, if I were flipping a property like I do, I'd have to include those things.
Sure, you leave it in there. Anything that would come back and bite me in the ass and make me fail an inspection, I would definitely take out before they move in. And the only way you're going to learn that is, what to eliminate is by experience. I play the odds. 99% of the time, if I left something in the house, that I speak of in the book, if I left that, most of the time it came back broke. So I started eliminating them, and then when my inspections would go smooth, then there was nothing for them to break.
Yeah, true enough. Towel bars?
No, well, yeah, I would, if it had a towel bar there, yeah, most of the time I would leave that. I don't know I forget if you needed them back then, but I know you need them now. They want a towel bar.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I'll leave them. If I'm forced by law to leave it, I'll leave it.
Nice. It was pretty cool. I think the elimination piece I had heard first. I was working for one of the other brownstone apartments companies in the city of Philadelphia, and I remember hearing, like Section 8 Bible, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then I was reading about it on Bigger Pockets, and somebody had mentioned the elimination theory, and I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then I think one of the other guys was saying that you even will eliminate some of the windows in the property. Is that true, Mike?
Sure. If there's a basement and it's got say 4 windows down there, the little hopper windows. A lot of them, when you buy the property, they're covered with lead-based paint, but you only need one window for ventilation in the basement. And the basement windows are always the ones that are getting broke, whether a baseball's going through them, or what you get is somebody will call up and say, I'm locked out. Well, naturally, I say, I'm not a locksmith, you know what I mean? You have to call a locksmith to get you in, because I gave you 4 keys when you moved in. The first thing they'll do is kick that basement window in, reach in, unlock it, go through the basement, come up and let themselves in. Then they'll call Section 8 and say somebody broke into the house. The landlord's got to come out and fix the window. So, I knew what the game was, so let's start eliminating the windows. And what I mean by eliminating, like I would side over 3 of them and leave one little hopper up front for ventilation. Washer and dryer hookups. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, you got it.
No, go ahead. What were you going to ask me?
I was going to say the window for ventilation. Like, could you put the glass block windows in there with the little jealousy twister? I mean, is that like?
No, that was usually they would say that was. We tried that too. They said that wasn't enough ventilation going through for the heater or whatever else. So they made you at least put a slider in there.
So you had to basically spend the $300 to $400 putting the glass block in to learn this lesson, which then you included in the Section 8 Bible.
Yeah, you got it. You're right.
Sweet.
But, once the houses start adding up, if if you had all 4 of those windows to replace in the basement, let's say they're $125 a pop, you know what I mean? Instead of putting 4 in, you're only putting 1 in. You do that in every house, you're saving a ton of money.
On top of all the repairs later on down the line when 2 of them are getting broken.
Yeah, the maintenance is done on them. You don't have to worry about anybody breaking the windows, breaking the locks, anything. So another thing we eliminated was water, like for water in Philadelphia. I don't know. I mean, Philadelphia, the water bill was lienable. So in other words, if the tenant ran up a $400 water bill and skated out of the property, you're stuck with a $400 water bill. There's nothing you can do because it's going to be lienable on your property. So we started eliminating the washer hookups, the hose bibs out front, because I mean they'd be filling pools up and everything else they could fill up out front.
Interesting. So they will pass inspection even without a hose bib. I mean, it'll be like
without a hose bib. Yes, they will. Yep.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah, that's why they make laundromats, I guess.
Yeah, true enough. So do you not have washer and dryer hookups? I mean, is that part of the?
Nope. No, I don't. I eliminate them all. Yep.
And
if they ask me, can I put a washer and dryer in here? I say, well, if you pay for it, but I'm not paying to get a washer and dryer, hookup put in here. And usually, I mean, 90% of the time they don't even put one in. But some will have pay to have a washer hookup put in, but I can handle 1 out of 10 rather than all 10 of them having washer hookups.
Yeah, it
just keeps the water bill down. It keeps the water bill down. And another thing that people want to do when they're doing this is, well, let's say I'm going to get $1,000 for a unit without paying any utilities. Some people say, well, I can get $1,300 if I pay the water bill and the electric bill. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Because I learned that lesson also. The minute you're paying their water, you know what I mean, the water bill will go from $40 up to $300. They'll beat you on that. And the electric bill, they'll run the air condition, day and night. It's not worth it to pay your utilities. So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you even see that in big apartment complexes. It's like, the dead of winter and the window's wide open and someone's in there smoking a cigarette,
Yeah, you got it.
So I'm like a fix and flip guy, Mike. I do, a little bit of wholesale and keep my fix and flip machine moving. My goal is just to put together as many deals as fast as possible. And I'm kind of sort of on the front end of my career, I guess you could say. And I know that I'm kind of looking around right now. I'm saying, all right, I mean, I live in Chicago, so I'm trying to figure out the neighborhoods where I want to buy some rental properties and kind of the strategy I want to go. And so far, my mission in life from real estate has been to promote home ownership with my activities by fixing and flipping properties. And I was always like an anti-Section 8 guy, because I've heard like the stories that you're saying, the inspector's got to come and, it's all this little BS, like holding up of the rent. Now they're not giving you the rent until the right time. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of Section 8 and like part of why it worked so well for you to pile up 312 units at one time.
Okay. Well, the number one thing, of course, would be guaranteed rent. And I agree with you. I've done a lot of flips myself. You know what I mean? If I can do a flip, but I do my flips in better areas where I know people that, let's say are going to have better credit, stronger credit, and you're easier to flip the property. And I mean, I will do them in that area. But let's say, I can buy a property for $20,000, sink, say 10 into it, send all in for $30,000, and I'm getting $1,000 a month. Where else are you going to get that kind of return? You know what I mean? For the 30 grand, you're bringing in $1,000 a month. I'll give you an example. My neighbor, he worked for W.W. Granger. Okay, he got out of there. He worked there for maybe 15 years. He walked out there with $117,000 from his profit sharing. So he didn't have any kind of retirement. He used to do cement work and everything else, but then he got in Granger's later in life. Long story short, he walked out with $117,000. So he said, well, I don't have any retirement. I got to wait, until my Social Security kicks in when I'm 62. I said, why don't you start buying properties? You got 117 grand, so go up there and, I'll help you find some. So he ends up buying 4 properties, free and clear. He didn't take any mortgages on them. He spent $117,000. He ends up buying 4 properties. He still has them to today, and he brings in $4,100 a month. So he actually created his own retirement with $117,000. You know what I mean? The 4,100 hours. I mean, my dad worked for SEPTA out here. For 37 years, and his pension is not even $4,100 a month. So that's one of the pros. I mean, you're not all in for a low number. You're getting a hell of a return.
Yeah, you're right about that. Like the example you just shared, he's being taxed as rental income there, not earned income, right? So he's got the benefits of
right, and also whatever else he's got. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. For just 117 grand. I mean, 117 grand is not just lying around, but it's also not,
No, but I mean, a lot of people have a lot of people get out with an annuity or IRA or profit sharing money, and they let it sit there for maybe and get 1% in the bank or whatever. Why not take it and max out on it? I mean, sure, you're going to have a phone call every now and then, a water heater broke or something like that, but for $4,100 a month, this guy had zero retirement at all. Once he took his profit sharing out of 117, he was done. The only thing he was going to get was like $1,400 a month from Social Security.
So with the Social Security and the other thing, he's sitting pretty then.
Sure, yeah, off $117,000, so it worked for him. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. Some people, go up there and first thing that breaks, they're fed up. You're going to get the ups and downs with it, but it's like everything else. There's good and bad in everything. There's good and bad in flips. There's good and bad in Section 8. There's good and bad in commercial.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is like you can't just do one, Mike. I mean, if you just did the one deal and you had only the bad experience to talk about, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But it's like, any kind of deal or any piece of real estate, you got to do a number of deals in order to spread the risk. Yeah,
right. It's all in volume because, if I had 30 houses and 5 of them are vacant, I'm hurting. You know what I mean? I got 300 houses and I got 7 vacants. It's not as bad, So you get your numbers up and, it's everything's in volume. The more you have, the better. In my mind, you know what I mean? Some people, like this guy, for him, having 4 houses works for him. They're free and clear. He's happy with it. For me, I mean, it depends how far you want to go with it. You want to be rich, you can keep chugging along. You know what I mean? You're happy with 4,100, you set your own goals.
True enough. So let's talk about some of the neighborhoods, because you and I were talking on the phone before. You mentioned St. Louis, and I know there's a couple other cities where Section 8 is, big and works well, and I'm sure there's little sub-markets all over the country where the Section 8 just works because the numbers have to be, like you said, 10 grand, put 20 into it, and then be in for 30,000 and rent it out for, $800, $900, $1,000 a month. Are there issues? So when I looked at Section 8 a few years ago, and I was kind of like turned off with my interactions with the few Section 8 voucher holder tenants that showed up in my property, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I sold the house and never rented it out. But are there neighborhoods where like people who have a Section 8 voucher, they will like refuse to live? I mean, 300 houses all over Philadelphia. There's some better spots. There's some,
pockets, yeah, different sections, absolutely. Where I'm at, I'm not dodging bullets every day. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I could, walk through there, count money, and not get jumped or something. But there's good areas and bad. I mean, North Philly, I would never go in North Philly. But I guess you have to know your area. You know what I mean? Like I know where I can go. I can pull my truck up, my van up. Nobody breaks into it. You know what I mean? While I'm working on the property, I've had people break into the property and take the copper out. And like I say, that never happened. But, I don't feel like my life's in jeopardy there as I would in different sections of the city like North Philly, Kensington. There's a lot of bad areas, but you got to know where and where not to go. How do you find that out? I guess I have a couple things in my book telling you. One thing you could do is you can go into the police station and just ask for police, to log on the police reports for the past year. You know what I mean? Most cops will be honest with you and tell you what kind of area you're in. But, I mean, to start investing in an area you don't know, you might be taking a risk. So I suggest you would know the area. I
mean, you were buying a lot of them in Southwest Philadelphia, and that's kind of known. I mean, there's probably some better pockets and some more rough pockets there. I mean, are there particular streets you're staying away from there? I mean, if you went into the police station in Southwest Philly, Mike,
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, they can point. They're not gonna point up the street and say this is good, and point down the street and say that's bad. You know what I mean? They're gonna probably tell you it's not a great neighborhood, but you're not gonna get killed. North Philly. I mean, I don't know how honest a cop would be, but now I'm not even thinking of it. You know what I mean? But the North Philly, North Philly, you don't even have to ask. I guess I wouldn't even know how to explain that one. How to know if as far as now how you would find out if it's a good or bad area. I guess you would really just have to know your area.
So, Mike, you were obviously, because you grew up, you lived in the Philadelphia area. I mean, how familiar were you with Southwest Philadelphia when you made that first investment?
Very. I've managed the apartment complex in Southwest Philadelphia. My ex-girlfriend lived in Southwest Philadelphia. And when I got in there, the neighborhood was just starting to change over. It was going from, it was real good at one time, and then, started getting worse. It's nothing you're going to get killed in, nothing like that. I mean, nothing I know of, but I knew the area. Let's put it that way. I knew what I was getting into when I got up there.
Yeah, I think that's important to note the area first if you're going to enter the market.
Now, I'm going to tell you one thing, you can find way better deals if you go. Deals if you go into better areas, of course, you know what I mean? Because nobody wants that house. You can find a better deal, but like you said, when I put my properties up for rent, they rent fast as hell because the area isn't that bad. I'll throw a 3-bedroom Section 8 up, and I got it rented within 2 or 3 days. Now, if I was to go into North Philly and buy one on in the Badlands and posted it on Section 8 site, I might not get that rented for 8 months. You know what I mean? And I talk about all that in the book. Where not to buy a house, and the difference in money. You know what I mean? You're going to get less rent there. It's going to take you longer to rent it. As quick as you put a sink in the front, they might break in and run out the back door with it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so you just got to watch where you're investing.
I got 2 questions here. The first one, Mike, was, how do you go about finding the tenants? You mentioned Section 8's website. Did you have any other, strategies for filling the houses up?
No, honestly, God, most of mine are all word of mouth. You know what I mean? We put together a nice house, even though it's stripped of garbage disposals and everything else. I mean, we paint them all, bright white. If they need carpet, we'll put the carpet there. They look nice and clean and presentable when the tenant comes in, so I've never had a problem. I did list them on the Section 8 website now and then if I have to, and they, people will call you up, and once they call you up, you set up an appointment, they come out. If your house is in good condition, they'll take it.
All right, tell me about good condition. I mean, like the houses I see a lot that I'm out shopping for are like, grandma's house. They got the old kitchen from sometimes the 50s and the 60s with the metal sink, and, a lot of times the 70s or, even the 80s. What level of rehab is necessary to get a house like that ready?
I'll go in there. I usually strip it down, strip everything out. If it's a beat up kitchen with broken drawer. Now, I've bought them where the kitchen was in good condition and I could leave it like that, But I've bought them where the kitchen was banged up, missing countertops or whatever. I'll go out and I'll put a Home Depot kitchen in. I'll get a vanity for upstairs in the bathroom, maybe a new toilet. I change all the electrical outlets and switches. I have my roofer go right up on the roof the minute I get it. I change the roof over. I mean, it's straight to rubber. The only thing I'll use on the roofs is rubber. And then I'll paint it, with usually MAB paint. I'll paint the thing from top to bottom, all one color, solid white. And then I'll throw some $10 a yard brown carpet in there. New kitchen. If you dress it up with a $1,200 Home Depot kitchen and maybe throw something in the bathroom, a new toilet and vanity, and paint it and put the new carpet in, that's you're on top. You'll rent it quicker than hell, actually.
Yeah, I imagine
because I've seen some of the property. One of my buddies, he's got about maybe 40 properties, and I walk into his, I'm like, Jesus Christ, how do you even get these rented? You know what I mean? That's where the difference lies. He might have to sit there and wait 6 months. He thinks he's saving money by not doing anything and getting it rented, but he's really losing money because he's sitting there for 6 months with a vacancy waiting for somebody to, take his property. They'll walk in his property and move on. Go look at another one. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're thinking popping the kitchen in there and kind of doing a little bit of a facelift. You're not gutting the bathrooms. You're not,
No. I might put the tub surround in. I'm not yanking the tub out, none of that. And I'll use linoleum on the floor. I'll put the carpet in, and the floors are banged up. You know what I mean? I'll put the linoleum. Now, if the hardwoods are good, I use a guy called Mr. Sandless. And the reason I do that is so I never have to change the carpet again. He'll come in and, make the hardwoods, you'll be able to see your face in the hardwoods from China. You know what I mean? And then I never worry about the carpets getting destroyed. I'd rather that, but you know how a lot of these houses are. Like if the toilet overflowed and the floorboards buckled, there's nothing you could do with them other than carpet them.
It's pretty cool. I'm starting to kind of get your mindset a little bit. It's like I got to approach every decision on the rehab not just based on cost, because the hollow core doors might look nicer, for $29, but I'm going to spend $100 on the solid door because I'm not going to have it ripped off the hinges five times.
Believe it or not, it's only like a $12. Believe it or not, it's only a $12 difference. With the hollow core, you're at the hollow doors, you're getting the whole door's pre-hung. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Whatever the price is for the pre-hung, the solid doors actually, you're only getting, it's just a slab door. You know what I mean? You're only paying about $10 more for the door.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, I can hang a pre-hung in, 15 minutes, tear everything out and hang it. I can hang that, but actually the slab's a little harder because you got to line it up, trim it, and everything else. But once it's up, it's up. And it's not. If they kick it, I've had them kicked off the hinges, but I can easily just take a 3-inch screw. You know what I mean? Take a 3-inch screw and screw it back up. But that doesn't happen with the hollow doors. I mean, if they kung fu them off the hinges, usually their foot goes through it, and then the door's done.
That's pretty decent too, because I know to me when I have a full solid door, Mike, it feels like it's quality. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that the perception is you did a great job rehabbing the property when somebody's looking at this compared to the old guy just painted the the other guy,
the old antique knob on there, the old door,
all painted over. Yeah, that's interesting. So you came from a construction background, Mike. Are you in there with your hands a lot of times, doing all the maintenance, repairs, running the rehabs? You just got a couple helpers with you, or do you kind of like...
It depends what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm bored, I'll get in there with them. If,
nice.
If not, you know what I mean? It's, at this point, I do what I want. You know what I mean? If I feel like jumping in, I like to paint. You know what I mean? I don't mind that. I'll jump in and do a little painting, and as long as I'm there, I got 3 guys that work for me. As long as I'm there, they have to keep moving. So I like being around, at least making my presence known. I have a partner too. I've been partners with a guy, Nick. I've been partners with him for 20 years now. So if I'm not there, he is.
Nice. So what about guys that might be listening, or guys that bought your book? Do you have any suggestions for anybody if they were coming from like an accounting background, or they were, a lawyer, or they were some other professional and they have no idea what it takes to rehab a house? I mean, is there any?
Sure. I put that right in the book. Become a general contractor yourself. I mean, anybody can go out and buy a house, but a lot of people can't work on it. Well, everybody can use the phone. You know what I mean? Let's say you need plumbing done. You need a new water heater. You need a toilet. You need a kitchen sink put in. You call 3 plumbers, get the best price, and go from there. You know what I mean? A lot of people have to do it that way, and it works out that way too. It works out well that way too. You just start calling around, get the best prices you can, and once you find a good guy, you keep them. That's how I found my roofer. That's how I found the guy, my guy that installs my heaters. Same thing. I mean, there was a point where I don't put heaters in. So I had to start calling around, and I would start getting prices. If I found a decent guy that way, I found a decent guy for my roofs. So now plumbers back and forth. You know what I mean? One time, I don't know what the hell it is with plumbers. One month they're good, and the next month they want to either raise their prices or you find them in the bar. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I have the same experience. My best construction contacts came from other investors. So like if I were in Southwest Philly starting to buy properties, I'd call a guy like you who had 300, and I'd say, hey man, I'm looking for someone like that can do windows for me. You got anybody? And I get great referrals by asking the other volume investors. But yeah, it's the same thing. The guy's good and either raises his prices because his supply and demand kind of outstrips my wholesale requirement on prices. And now the guy finds himself in retail because he's graduated with the skill level. Or like you said, the guy falls apart and, he's in the bar stool and stops showing up.
Yeah. But like I said, any accountant, lawyer, anybody can get involved in it, really. I mean, you just have to, have enough common sense to shop your prices around, and you'll learn. You know what I mean? Your first one you'll do, you might, you might pay a little more for the labor. The second one you do, well, you get better and better at it, just like anything else.
Interesting. So you said you have a partner. His name is Nick. I mean, can you give any suggestions as far as if somebody, like let's just run with the accountant example that we've been on. If the accountant figures, hey, I don't know construction, do you have any suggestions on partnership, finding partners, choosing the right partner? I mean, what's your experience with partners?
Well, obviously somebody's going to put in as much effort as you, 50-50 right down the middle, which me and Nick always had, But luckily, I mean, I didn't have to shop for a partner. I went to school with him since we were kids. And now I know another guy that he's a realtor, and his partner, that's actually, they broke the partnership up because the realtor would find a property. Once he found the property, he'd have the guy go in and, do all the construction, and then it got to the point, hey, I'm over here doing all the work. All you're doing is finding the property. And then you start getting, fingers pointed each way, and you know what I mean? And believe it or not, the guy that was doing the labor was right. You know, the other guy that spent, you know, an hour to find the property, he was already in the field of being a realtor, and this guy was doing all the work. So. You know,
yeah, the balance has to stay the same, or the expectation.
Sure. And I understand you got a realtor, you're a realtor, you got a career like anything else, but on the weekend you can come up and throw a paintbrush around or do something, try and pull your weight. You know what I mean? Not stick it all in one guy.
So what about management, Mike? Did you ever have an employee running around? I mean, let's talk about how 312 properties must be more than one guy's full-time job, right?
Well, actually, it was just me and Nick. I never, ever had a management company, ever. And believe it or not, we never even used a computer. Everything I did was out of a filing cabinet. That's God's honest truth. Yeah, I would, put the minute I'd buy the property, I'd get the HUD-1, put that in the file. Then I'd get the lease, put that in the file. Any receipts we spent on the property, put that in the file. We're like Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble.
Hey, as long as you're moving, you keep it working, right?
Right. So that's just goes to show you it's not that hard of a thing to do, really.
Agreed. What about, showing a tenant, picking a tenent? So would you show up, would Nick show up and show the property? And what was the process?
Either one, whoever's around. Usually if we're in our office, the phone rings and, somebody, here's what I would always ask so you don't waste your time. A lot of tenants are out kicking tires. You know what I mean? They call you and say, I see you got a 3-bedroom property for rent. Can I see it? Well, I used to show up over there and they wouldn't bring the packet and say, well, I'm not, let's say today's October, whatever the hell it is, and they're not ready to move until November 30th. Well, then you just waste your time. What I always say is, okay, well, do you have your packet with you? No, I'm not ready to move yet. I didn't get it. Well, I said, well, I'm not showing any property until you have the packet. You know what I mean? So and then once they tell you they have the packet and they show up, they like it, you fill out the packet, they take it back to Section 8, and it starts to get processed that day. But I would always show up. If you're trying to find somebody, in the beginning we would do credit checks. Wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? Nobody had excellent credit, and that was on Section 8. Believe it or not, it's just the way it was. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, and we would just get more on the security deposit. Try and get more on the security deposit is what we'd always do.
All right, so let me play devil's advocate, or let's do this, Mike. Let's say you're like the consultant, and because I live in Chicago, I like the idea, right? We've been talking for a half hour or so, and, you got me thinking, you know what, I could get a pretty good return, and this might work, and I could hit the bank and start building up some of these Section 8 properties. I mean, let's pretend I was going to give you, I don't know, $5,000 or something to pick a property for me, right? And then place a tenant or something like that. How would you go about, picking the deal if you were willing to provide that service for me? I mean,
first I'd say you need another $15,000 to buy the property.
Yeah, true enough. So all right, I'm up to 20 now, so $15,000 to buy.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
I'll give you the commission on there, the $5,000. Would you be able to pick that out for me?
Okay, yeah. Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be able to find you one in Southwest Philadelphia. I could probably find you one in a day or two. There's that many up there where you can actually pick your own deals. Now, what I would know, as opposed to somebody who's coming in from Chicago, I would know the streets that I stay between, you know what I mean? And these are streets that tenants rent it, always is. Here's what I base on. If I have a house and I put it up for rent and it's rented in 3 days, they're the kind of streets I want to stay on. You know what I mean? So I would find a house for you, get it up and rent it, and you'd be in business in 5 weeks. And
what do you figure the construction costs I'd be looking at on something like that?
Okay, there's two ends of it. Okay, if I buy one for $22,000, $24,000, I might have to sink, say, 12 into it, 10 into it, somewhere in there. So my all-in number on that might be, 34,000 or 35,000. Okay, that's one way you could do it. If you go in there and buy a handyman special, sink money into it, get it up and rent it, then everything's brand new. You know what I mean? But I'll also try and find them for $35,000 where they don't need anything. You know what I mean? As long as my all-in number, I try and keep it. For me, I try and keep it in that area, anywhere from 35. I'll even go up to 40,000. You know what I mean? If I go up to 40 grand, I'm still getting, and if I yank a mortgage on it, a 20-year mortgage, my mortgage would be maybe $350, $400 tops with the insurance, everything else. I'm getting $1,000. I get $600 profit a month.
It's a good deal.
And that's where I'd like to be. I always try and keep it. If I'm making $500, I'm good. Anything above $500 is even better.
Great.
And them deals are up there. I mean, they're a dime a dozen up there.
How do you figure out how much the rent is in the neighborhood? I mean, can I go to like Section 8 and type in a zip code? Is this restricted? I mean, how do we go about determining how much to charge for rent for a Section 8 property, or expectation if we're looking at a property, Mike?
Well, just from experience, I mean, I know the numbers, but how would you find out? You could easily just call Philadelphia Section 8, and they'll be able to do it for you. You know what I mean?
And I guess,
sure, you can give them the zip code and tell them, it's a 2-bedroom property. Tell them you're not going to pay for it. You don't want to pay for any utilities, and they'll usually give you a number.
And I guess there's, offices like that in the other cities too, right? I mean,
yeah, but I've never had any Section 8 properties anywhere other than Philadelphia, so I can only tell you how Philadelphia does it. You know what I mean? So that's, you can call their office and tell them, have a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, give them the zip code, and they'll give you a ballpark of what it's going to be coming back at.
Nice. So one of the reasons I always hesitated to pull the trigger on the Section 8 was that, like you said, with the packet, I've heard like stories where I guess people didn't have the right paperwork, or they didn't have, everything they needed, or the inspection, and they had like to wait like 3, 4, 5 months during the vacancy when they kind of like placed the tenant, and then they had to wait for the payment to kick in. I mean, you've obviously figured out how to condense that process, right, Mike?
Yeah, in the beginning, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. In the beginning, I used to be able to get a tenant in there, and the day of it would pass inspection, I could move the tenant in, and they would backdate the lease to the inspection date, the past inspection date. Now they're getting a little tougher. I mean, now they have to, after it passes inspection, they give you a little red tape you got to cut through, and sometimes at the inspection, sometimes you might not get them in for like maybe 3 weeks to a month after the inspection. Don't ask me why. I wish I could, speed up the process down there, but, it doesn't happen. So it's usually about a month after the inspection date you're starting to get on the payroll.
All right, so let's go back to the, the consulting client scenario real quick.
Okay.
We buy a house, we go to settlement on it today, Mike, and then we do a 4 or 5 week renovation, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're looking for an inspection, or then we're looking for a tenant. We're doing all that at the same time, or are we talking another month after that until?
I always wait until the house is done. So let's say you do it. Well, for me, I'm through them in 2. I'm gonna throw them in 2 weeks. But if say you're new at it and it takes you 4 weeks, and okay, you're done the house in 4 weeks. Now you run the ad for, Section 8 house, 3-bedroom for rent. Tenant comes out, takes the house, fills out the packet. From that time on, from the time they fill out the packet, then they'll send out the inspector. That might take 2 weeks. After it passes the inspection from there, it's either 3 or 4 weeks from that point, from the time it passes inspection.
And that's when you'll get started. Another 3 weeks out, that's when they can
3 to 4,
move in?
Yep. You cannot move in until they actually get out and sign the lease. Yep.
And they sign a lease after the inspection is passed, right?
They'll pass the inspection, and the inspector will come out. You'll pass the inspection. Now, he'll take the paperwork back to be processed. Tenant service rep will call you, say it's just drawing up the leases. Within 4 weeks, they might tell you to come down and sign the lease. As soon as you come down and sign the lease, your money starts coming in. From that day, from the day you sign the lease.
So Section 8 has their own lease signing process, and I guess who's actually the one you're signing the lease with? Section 8 program?
Section 8, yeah, Section 8 and the tenant, yep.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So I have, a 5-6 week or so window, and then the vacancy is filled. What has been your experience with the average length of stay, Mike, in a Section 8 property?
Where I'm getting them, my tenants don't move. That might sound like bullshit, but I get them in a decent area of the city where they just don't move. I mean, unless, okay, there's different packets. Let's say somebody has a job, a small job. Let's say they work at McDonald's for part-time or something like that. Okay. And the rent, let's say the rent they come out and determine is $1,000 on the property. The Section 8, the tenant might have a portion of, say, $200. So $800 of that will be sent to you by Section 8, direct deposit. And then $200 you'll have to get off the tenant. Sometimes, even though they only have to pay $200, they think you're going to chase it, and I don't. I mean, after 15 days, if I don't have it, I send them out an eviction letter, So,
nice.
But it rarely happens, and here's why. Because I dangle their packet in front of them. I use it as a fear factor. I say, hey, listen, if you're not paying your rent, it's in the lease that I can go down and have your packet terminated, and you'll be paying rent for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So they don't want to get thrown off the program, which is a good thing. I can't get that with a retail customer. Let's say I was renting that house for $1,000 off a retail customer and they didn't want to pay. Oh, well, I got to take them to court, throw them out. They could punch holes in the wall, chop the freaking water heater out, chop the copper out, and I won't be able to, I'll be able to put a lien on them, but what good's a lien? You know what I mean? I'm not going to get it off them anyway. There's no, nothing to put their feet to the fire on. You know what I mean? They'll be gone. At least the Section 8 tenant's not going to be able to do that because they'll lose their packet. And by losing their packet, I mean they'll be thrown off the program, and instead of, them getting free rent, now they have to pay the whole nut.
That's a pretty strong selling point for the Section 8 program. They have a whole nother, it's like a portion of their livelihood is threatened by, losing that packet.
And you have to do it. Yeah. You have to do it unless, walk on you.
So that would be, give me some examples. We talked about the 200 or the tenant pay portion not being paid. You bring up the packet. What would be some other items that you would utilize the threat of losing the packet for?
Okay. All right. I don't pay for their water. So the water bill still comes to me, okay? So I'll take the minute the water bill comes in, I'll mail a copy of the water bill to the tenant. Say it's $53. The tenant and I pay the water bill. Yeah, I'll pay to the water company, but the tenant owes me the $53. They'll get a copy of the bill, so they have to pay me the water bill, okay? So once the bill, several times the water bill would be $400, and then they'll be like, oh, well, why? I'm not paying this water bill. What do you mean you're not paying it? You ran it up to $400. Well, I'm not paying it. Okay, well then we'll go to court. You know what I mean? And that'll be right there. And then I'll argue with their service rep. Hey, they're getting money for the water bill and they're just not paying me. Even if it's $53, sometimes they want to give you an argument about that. Can I pay you $25? It doesn't work that way because I'm sending it. I'm not making any money off the water bill. I'm not. You know what I mean? It's what it is. Whatever the water bill is, I'm mailing it to the water company and they're reimbursing me. So I'm not making a nickel off of that. So I don't want to have to chase it down or anything. And I tell them that in the beginning. So. But that would be like theft of utilities, and that could get them thrown off the program.
That's interesting, too, because I know even in Chicago here and some of the other cities around the country that utilities like water and gas are actually lienable, and you are now collecting the money and then sending it to the water bill. You're doing that, Mike, I assume, to protect the title so that you're not surprised and getting a $2,300 water bill.
Yep, exactly. A lot of guys. Oh yeah, the tenant's responsible for the water, so I let her put the water bill in her name. I said to myself, what are you, crazy? Now you don't see what's going on. You know what I mean? They can be behind 6 months. The water in Philadelphia, I don't know about in Chicago. Philadelphia, they don't care if you're six months behind or a year behind. They won't come out and shut it off because guess what? They're going to get it anyway when you sell the property. It's lienable. They don't. You know what I mean? If it gets into maybe the $5,000 range or $4,000, then they might come out and shut it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What about the gas bill? I mean, that's lienable too, isn't it, Mike?
It is and isn't. When you get the property, there's called a Landlord Cooperation Program in Philadelphia. All you have to do is send them your rental license and register the property with the gas company. And what happens is if the tenant is behind on the gas bill, they'll send you a notice so you can let the gas company in there to shut it off. So as long as you register with them, they can't. You know what I mean? They can't put any kind of liens on you.
Won't forget you. I know that in the past there was no co-op program. Probably back when you started, right, Mike? Did you have an elimination procedure for that?
No. Yeah, I gave them a fireplace and some wood.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen guys actually put electric heat in there instead.
Yeah, back when I was doing it, gas was not lienable, and neither was electric. The gas wasn't lienable back then. It didn't become lienable for about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Gas company wanted to get involved and make it lienable.
How about that? No kidding. It was just that recent. It was just a few years ago. I mean, I always, I'm on the other end of the spectrum where like my job is clearing the title, and we have these, $8,000, $10,000, $5,000 gas bills. I'm like, man, this is outrageous. I just assumed that it had been lienable forever.
No, just the past 5 years, that was it. I mean, it used to be the Wild Wild West up there. Like, you get away with anything. You know what I mean? They make it a little tougher, but you can still make money with it. I mean, where else are you going to go and, for $30,000, buy a property, get it rented, get $1,000 a month. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, you could probably sell for more than $30,000. So why not take the shot?
Yeah.
Any other business you open up a $30,000 laundromat that doesn't go anywhere, you lost $30,000. You open up a $30,000 restaurant that doesn't go anywhere, you lost $30,000.
Lost $30,000.
That's what's great about real estate. Real estate, if it doesn't work, you sell it. You always get and chance. Like I said, the chance you might be able to get more for what you paid for it, more than what you paid for it.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, what if you pile up a big, like other businesses, some other businesses, and I know like a lot of people say, to own properties in a large area, is it realistic to think you could sell the entire portfolio, Mike, at some point?
We did. In 2005, I sold every single property to one guy. Yeah. And then I did backflips out of the settlement. And not for the sake of getting rid of the properties, but like I said, we were buying them so low in 2005. Everybody knows what happened in 2005. You know what I mean? Back then, if they were appraising for $40,000 in Southwest Philly, they went up to $90,000. You know what I mean? So, all within like a 2-year span, real estate just crushed it and went through the roof. So I'd have been a fool not to sell them. So I sold them all, sat on my hands for a couple of years, and then start buying them again. Right now I got about 35 to 40 of them up there, and I'll just pick and choose which ones I want. And hopefully, real estate's been down long enough now, so I'm thinking sooner or later it'll come back. And hey, right now I'm happy getting the money, from Section 8 every month. But if they go up again, I'll be right there to sell them again.
It's realistic. If you look throughout history, there's always been boom and bust.
That's the trend. You got to follow the trends, right?
So how do you go about finding the deals, Mike? Are you like on the streets, just happen to hear through word of mouth? You guys, real estate listed MLS properties?
I got a couple of realtors that send me a bunch of MLS stuff. You know what I mean? If I call them up, hey, I want to go over there and look at this property. Sometimes they'll meet me. Sometimes I know most of the realtors up there. They'll give me the code. I'll shoot through there. If it's a piece of crap, I might even throw a real low offer in, or I'll just walk away and wait till, depends what mood I'm in. If there's something I think I can fix up and make a quick buck on and, get it rented, I'll do it. If not, move on to the next, pick what I want now.
Well, cool, man. We're kind of approaching the top of the hour here, Mike. I got a couple pages of notes here, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you have any recommendations for decent books, real estate related or otherwise, for our listeners to pick up.
I wish I did. Let me think here a minute. To be honest with you, the reason that I wrote Section 8 Bible, in the beginning, I would start reading these books, and I'm like, oh my God, I'd be pulling my hair out, listening and reading them. I'm like, it seemed like the landlord, whoever is writing them, wanted the landlord to bend over backwards for the tenant. I said, man, this is insane. You know what I mean? All these writings are, so I said, let me write what I feel. You know what I mean? Any penny that I save from not putting another garbage disposal in, or not putting a chandelier in the property, that money goes directly into my pocket. You know what I mean? I'm not out to make the tenant happy. You know what I mean? Hey, I'll give him a nice place to live, but I'm not going to go broke doing it. You know what I mean? And that's with all the books. You know what I mean? The one guy was, like I said, in my book, one guy's in there saying he goes around and gives his tenants a turkey on Thanksgiving and Christmas. I said, man, my tenants should be giving me one. I'm the one giving them the place to live, paying the taxes. Who the hell am I? You know what I mean? So, but that's exactly why I wrote the book. I'd like to knock this guy. Is that all right? Can I knock the book?
You know what? I guess you can.
All right, let me knock it. It's Landlord on Autopilot, Mike Butler. I swear to God, the guy read my book and started there, because I was done before him. And he's got a lot of my stuff in there. Everything he tries to put in, everything he tries to sell in there is a form or, I don't know, you know what I mean? He tells you he's giving you free stuff, and the thing's loaded with junk to buy. And that's one thing my book's not. I mean, my book just tells it straight like it is. You buy the book, I'll tell you how to do Section 8 landlording. You know what I mean? You want to make money in it? I can tell you how to do that. But I'm not going to sit here and sell you 80,000 forms on this and 90,000 forms, and that's what his book was loaded with. And that, after I read his after mine, I'm like, well, this doesn't compare. So I'm sure if he hears this, he'll want to knock me. So whatever.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I remember reading I was probably 17 at the time, and I remember going to the bookstore, and I don't remember the name of the book. It's on my bookshelf at the office in Pennsylvania. And I remember now, with my realm of experience and having closed close to more than 300 deals, it's almost comical to think back. The guy was writing a book based on his experience of buying and managing somewhere around 10 or 11 rental properties. And,
wow.
I guess I mean, I guess like you said, Mike, everybody's got a target and a goal and, trying to accomplish certain things. But, it's funny to see. And I had no recommendation. I just picked something off the shelf at the bookshelf when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, to know that you're writing this book from the perspective of several hundred units. I mean, I know you, I know your background, and several hundred units worth of experience is like one hell of a teacher, and to pick up all of that from a book is priceless.
Right. And like I said, I don't pull no punches in it. I tell it the way it is, and I don't try and sell 80,000 products off it. I just want to tell you how to do it. If you're interested in it, go out and grab it. And you know what I mean? I think it's worth every cent, but what do I know?
Cool, yeah, and I'll include some information about that book along with the show notes here once we wrap up. I do have one more question, Mike, because we have new investors and we have seasoned investors and we have everywhere in between that listen to our show here. Maybe you could answer the question for like the newbie who's getting started, if you think back to yourself back in 1996, and then also maybe like some advice you'd have for yourself 4 or 5 years ago as an experienced investor, and that would be, do you have any final jewels of wisdom to share with our listeners, Mike?
Well, anybody that's thinking about getting into it, you got to think one thing. I don't think it's an easy thing to do. It's not like it's real hard, you know what I mean? But, a lot of people just think they're going to buy a piece of property, put a renter in there, and, hey, I'm going to start making money. You are going to have problems in the beginning, well, probably throughout the whole time, but you just got to roll with the punches. If you fail inspection for, the water heater not being lit, light the water heater, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? If you want it bad enough and keep after it, you'll be successful. It's the guy that says, you know what, I'm not going over there and lighting that water heater today. And then the inspector comes out and fouls it. He's the one that's going to foul. So it depends how bad you want it. I wanted it bad, you know what I mean? And my partner wanted it every bit as bad as I did. And we kept at it and learned a lot. The experience and everything, we learned a lot and we made it. As far as what I know now, what would I do different? I'd have bought a whole hell of a lot more properties when I was younger, because in 2005 when that boom hit, I wouldn't have been having to talk to anybody on the phone or doing anything. I could have been on the beach, So yeah, it's a good field to get into. I mean, especially if you get enough. What I tried to do was match my salary that I was getting for managing an apartment complex. Once I matched my salary, I rolled out of there and never worked for anybody again in my life. You know what I mean? And anybody can do it, but you got to come up, of course, with the initial investment, whether it's through. I was in my book. I said I was buying properties with credit cards. Any way I could get it, I had the real estate bug there, and any way I could get a property, I was doing it. Whatever it took to get it, I was getting it.
Yeah, that's great, man. What I hear is like the hunger and the thirst and the desire is probably the first most important prerequisite. Like, why are you doing this? And can you articulate and know and deeply believe that, you got to have this thing and you're going to figure out and do whatever it's going to take in order to get it done. I mean, the drive behind success in anything, I mean, is obviously.
And most people know before they get involved if they have that desire or not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A lot of people think, I might want to do this. I'm a little afraid to do that. I mean, if you're going to be afraid and be afraid and not go out there and buy it and, have every excuse not to get involved, but you're thinking, you keep thinking about it, well, then maybe it's not for you. You know what I mean? But it's a guy that wants to dive in and say, hey, I can do this, and what is the worst that's going to happen? If you come up with $25,000 to buy a property and it doesn't work, you can sell the property for the same thing you paid for it. That's what's great about real estate. Take the shot. If it doesn't work, sell the property and get out. What are you going to lose? Maybe a couple grand? Who knows? You might even make a couple grand selling it and then jump into what you're doing. Hey, I bought it for 25 and I sold it for 35 because I didn't like Section 8. Now I'm in the flips. Then they can buy your book.
Yeah, true enough.
So how are you going to lose?
True enough. You even can put insurance on a piece of property, so if the thing freaking burns down, you're still covered.
Oh, yeah. Leave a gas can and a pack of matches in the property.
Oh, no. We can go there. Mike, if anybody wants to get some more information, do you have a website or something that you'd like to share?
Yes, I do. Yep, it's section8bible.com. It's section8bible.com.
And they can sign up for your newsletter and get some interesting things.
I don't, like I said, I don't even have a newsletter. I just sell. I mean, if you want, I don't go crazy with all that. I really don't. I mean, I just sell the book on. If you want to know about Section 8 and what I did, how I got started, how to save money buying the property, how to save money turning the property over, it's all in there. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Even the website. I give out a ton of free stuff on the website.
Right there.
And you could probably determine if you even want the book just by going to the website.
Good deal. Well, Mike, I appreciate you giving of your time. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate all of the wisdom.
Hey, I appreciate you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Diamonds podcast. Are you enjoying what you hear here? Maybe you know someone else who'd enjoy this episode. The best compliment you can give to me is a referral. You can also sign up to receive email updates of new episodes at www.reidiamonds.com. And I'll also send you my special report called 7 Sources of Off-Market Deals. That website again is www.reidiamonds.com. And you may also subscribe to our show in the iTunes app. Just search REI Diamonds and click subscribe. Until next time, this is Dan Breslin signing off.
Thanks for listening to the REI Diamond Interview. To receive the REI Diamonds newsletter and interview monthly, sign up now at www.reidiamonds.com.